Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater, and I'm coming to you from one of the conference rooms here at Sweetwater. This is actually a multi-purpose space. We have this as a meeting space, but we also use it for what are called office hours, where manufacturers come in and demonstrate their products. So one of the things we wanted to do is ensure that we had a great acoustic environment to work in when we're doing those demonstrations, as well as having meetings here. And that's where you come in. This is Joao. It's great to see you.
Hi, Mitch.
We
Nice
saw
to
each
see
other
you
at
again.
NAMM about a month ago.
Correct.
But you're here today with Vicoustic, a new acoustic company that's come on board at Sweetwater.
Exactly. So, Vicoustic or Vicoustic, people can pronounce it both ways. It's a acoustic panel manufacturer from Portugal. Everything is all the research and development, product design, manufacturing is done out of Portugal. We chose that brand to bring in and do the overall here of the Fermata office room. We have a diverse assortment of products that we can chat about here today.
Yeah, well, I've been in this room many times and heard a lot of demos in here. It sounds a lot better now than
Thank you.
it did before. When it's
you.
kind of an odd-shaped space, and there's obviously some weirdness happening here with any conference room. You're going to have those kind of things. It's not purpose designed for audio.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about the process. There actually is a process available to customers to analyze their rooms. Can you tell us more about that?
Exactly. So Vicoustic has their own project design service. This is a service that has a fee, and customers can go either for a basic or a premium project. It has a different cost. The main difference is in the premium project, you have photorealistic 3D renders. So I would say they're closer to the reality in terms of the actual render of the images. The basic is the images are a simple export from their 3D software, but the acoustic study is the same. So it's important to know that just because it's basic versus premium, they're not getting an inferior solution with the basic. The acoustic study is the same. And so the way that process works is your customers will talk to your sales engineers. The sales engineers will, once the customer is ready to buy a project service, they will provide all the information to Vicoustic. Vicoustic works on a 3D model of the room. They work on acoustic calculations for the room and realize, okay, what's the best solution for this room depending on the purpose, the volume of the room and the dimensions, the construction materials of the actual room. So here's a good example where we had drywall and an acoustic ceiling already, carpet floors, like all of that plays into the solution that will be chosen for the room. And after this, a report is produced with all of this information, a complete product list with the acoustic calculations, and the customer will look at that product sheet and say, okay, I'm okay with this. I would like to make a few changes. First revision is always free of charge. And in the end, if the customer makes the decision to buy the products, they can go to Vicoustic, and obviously we did that for this room example. Vicoustic can also produce what we call the implementation document, in which you have a sheet with each view of each wall of the room, the ceiling, all the proper spacing, distances from the floor, et cetera, et cetera. Basically from that you can go to implementation and come up with a nice looking room like this.
Yeah, well, it came out beautiful. And I did see the documentation that was provided for this room, and it really does give you all the detail. And what you've implemented here in this space is really a combination of most of the products that Vicoustic does, because they do the acoustic analysis and the room design and all that, but the products are also available. You can just purchase those a la carte if you like. So take us through the types of acoustic treatments that we have here behind us to begin.
So it's interesting, and as you said, we tried to implement most of the products that Sweetwater is carrying with Vicoustic. It's important to know that Vicoustic has an immense offer of products with different finishes, different finish combinations. So, we kind of had to focus a little bit here.
Sure.
But we did have all the most fundamental products to treat a room. And we can start here with the Cinema Round Premium. This is an absolute bestseller. It's basically a broadband sound absorber. So, with a certain thickness, it goes down to like 315 hertz. Above that is pretty constant absorption in terms of its sound absorption performance. And this is one of the best sellers for tackling the mid and high frequencies, control the room's reverberation, etc. Then we go to what we call hybrid products, in which we combine some sort of wood so a reflective portion with an absorptive portion. And in this case, for example, the FlexiWave, there's the 120 and the 60 version. So they're basically the same product, but one is half sized. So that allows to create this very nice wavy effect. And this front facing is reflective while the sides of it are absorptive. And this creates still some level of absorption at mid and high frequencies, but it also guarantees that you get some high frequency reflections, and that feedback is important to prevent a room from becoming too acoustically dry.
Right.
Still on the hybrid products, we have the Vic Pattern Ultra Wave Wood MK2. The same concept applies, so a reflective portion, an absorptive portion. So if we look at the back of the product, we see that there's an absorptive layer inside, and then this pattern creates some scattering and reflection at high frequencies. And this is used in the other walls of the room.
And one of the nice things about these, they mount very easily.
So for most lightweight products, Vicoustic has their glue that you can use to put the panels on the walls and on the ceiling. For the wood products that might be heavier, they have their own bracket system. So it's called the sort of like a J profile system. And for those, the panels are fitted with these spacings here that then can have either one of these metal brackets, which we call the VicFix J profile 80 millimeters, which simply goes here. You screw these to the wall, and then the panel lays on top of them. It's pretty easy to install.
Yeah, very easy.
Some will have this metal bracket. Some others will have the plastic one, the VicFix Mini, like for example the DC3 that are here on the ceiling, but can also be mounted on the walls. The same thing goes for even these. It's a very robust fixation system, so much so that these multifuser wood panels are very heavy, and on the walls we use this bracket system the same. So what you see here is like, this is a square panel, but it's split into 4 different parts.
Okay.
Each part goes to the wall, goes on the wall with these little brackets here.
Nice, very convenient.
And that gives us an opportunity to move on to the diffusers here. Vicoustic has both one-dimensional and two-dimensional diffusers. We're focusing more here on the two-dimensional diffusers because they are in fact the best seller, and they provide diffusion in both horizontal and vertical planes. That's why they have a diffusion sequence in one direction horizontally and then vertically. And so here we have the 64, so multifuser wood MK2 64. There's also the 36 version, which has wider sort of, well, we call it wells, or you can call it cubes, whatever.
Sure.
They have different sized wells, so one could say that they work slightly at different frequencies, but in an overall perspective of their diffusion, they provide the same, very similar performance. There is a lightweight version of these made of high density styrofoam. We call it expanded polystyrene. And that's the multifuser DC3, which we have in the ceiling of this room. Oh, yeah. It's very discreetly up there. It can also be used on the walls. Up there is mounted with their FlexiGlue Ultra, but they can be mounted on the walls with these included brackets. So most products for wall installation will have the brackets included. If you want to use some of these products in the ceiling, you will need the longer profiles, and Vicoustic has these on the website where you can see what kind of accessories are needed to properly space the profiles and etc. So
right.
In the corners of this specific room, we're using the Super Bass Extreme Ultra. There's also what they call a VMT version of that, in which the product's exactly the same. It just has a tiny layer, very thin layer of a wrapping that will give it a different finish. Instead of the wood, you can choose between different colors.
I see.
That can actually match, for example, with the colors of a fabric of Cinema Round Premium or even the wood colors. The Super Bass Extreme Ultra is a membrane-based strap, so Sweetwater will also carry the Super Bass 90, which is a foam-only bass trap, and that goes in the corner, works as a broadband, so it absorbs the low end because it's on a corner, but because it's foam, it also absorbs mid and high frequencies. When we go for something like the Super Bass Extreme Ultra, this is dedicated for low frequency. So think about it as a closed box. Inside of it, there's a membrane tuned to a specific frequency, in this case, 100 hertz. And that membrane is a wood membrane that's designed with the thickness, the air gap, the materials inside to provide maximum absorption at 100 hertz. So people can look at it as a sort of like a parametric equalizer tuned at a 100 hertz with a certain bandwidth, or a Q. So it will tackle that frequency and some frequencies below and above, but that's the main goal. There are other bass traps in their offerings, but that's what we chose for this room.
Right. That's all part of that analysis and,
Exactly.
and room design is choosing
Yes.
the proper one.
And it's interesting, and you look through the information. It's interesting to also see the results. I actually came to this room and measured the before and after, to see how it stacks up to the calculated results. And of course, there are always deviations, but because their products are measured in a laboratory, usually the results after for calculated versus measured, they're pretty accurate, because you're accounting for what was measured for these products. Because in the predicted values before, you're always making assumptions. Like, for example, if you use drywall, there's so many combinations that you can input to a program where you calculated that, it could be drywall is a double layer, triple layer, single layer. Does it have an air gap? Does it not? So measured values after versus predicted values after, they're usually quite in par.
Well, the room came out absolutely great, and we've really just touched on it, like as you said, a few of the products that are offered in the line. I mean, it's very diverse. There's slat, beautiful finished kinds of things, and all types of different bass traps and wall treatments and things. So really excited to have them here at Sweetwater with us.
Thank you. Excited
Thank
to be
you for
here
coming
as well.
in and doing
Thank
the
you,
room
Mitch.
and giving us a tour today. It's always great to see you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
For complete information on Vicoustic products, head over to sweetwater.com. Or of course, as I always recommend, your Sweetwater sales engineer is the person to contact to get all the information, all the details, and to get started with your room analysis and room design. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.